Hello and welcome to the monthly Strengthening Families webinar for June. I'm excited that today we're hearing about parents and protective factors and making the most of everyday moments. My name is Kaylin O'Connor from the Center for the Study of Social Policy, and I welcome everyone who's joining us today. We'll start out with some updates from me and my organization, CSSP, and then Martha Reeder will share updates from the National Alliance of Children's Trust and Prevention Funds, who are our co-hosts for this webinar. And then we'll hear from three members of the Alliance's National Parent Partnership Council. Kara Georgie, Melissa Perry, and Janae Moss will all be sharing some of these great resources that they're working on and giving some insight into what they're learning about working with parents and what they're all doing. So very excited for all of the content, and I will jump in without further ado. So there I am. I'm a Senior Policy Analyst at CSSP and your host for these webinars. Each month we invite anyone to join these webinars who's using the Protective Factors Framework or coordinating Strengthening Families efforts in their state or jurisdiction or agency. We jointly convene these, as I mentioned, and each month we have a different topic and usually guest speakers. We coordinate that between CSSP and the Alliance, and we often have volunteers from the national network who will be sharing some of their work or volunteering to coordinate a session. Recordings and materials from the webinars are always posted at the site you see there, and Martha just let me know that in fact today's slides and handouts are already posted there today, and we'll add the recording once it's ready. So we are really getting on top of these things so that you can always access those. A couple of webinar tips. If you're having audio problems, please just make sure that you have the right audio option selected so that GoToWebinar knows whether you're connecting by phone or over your computer. That's often the source of connection problems and strange audio echoes. So make sure that it knows that and try switching between those two modes if you are having trouble. And if you're having trouble, you can always type in the question box, and Trish or Martha or I will try to respond and help you out and help you get connected. And I wanted to let everybody know that we do have these webinars the second Thursday of each month. Next month on July 14th, we'll hear about the Early Childhood and Health Learning Collaborative, which is using a protective factors approach as part of their work to address social determinants of health. We're excited about that work that's going forward, and you can already register for the webinar. You'll also, if you subscribe to our newsletter, you'll get the Strengthening Families e-update in a couple of weeks, and you'll have the opportunity to register through that newsletter announcement. And then I've got the dates up there for our next few. It's always the second Thursday of the month. And I encourage you to let me know if there's a topic that you would like to share information on, or just a topic that you think would be interesting, although be warned, I might rope you into being part of figuring out the right speakers or even sharing some of your own experience. Please send me an email or just type in the question or chat box today if you've got topics you'd like to see covered. Okay, I just want to share a couple of updates from CSSP. We had a set of resources that were just released about supportive housing, or really for supportive housing providers. This has been part of a resource center that CSSP has worked on with the Corporation for Supportive Housing, and has resulted in some materials to really help housing developments provide better support to vulnerable families who are also involved in the child welfare system or at risk of involvement in the child welfare system. And why this is particularly interesting to those of you who connect to this call is that it does take a strengthening families approach. So it uses the protective factors as a way for supportive housing providers to think about the needs of the families they serve and to take a strength-based approach. For a lot of these professionals who are housing people, they may not ever have been exposed to these ideas of how to work with families. And so it's a new arena, new possible partnership that you might want to think about in your own community, and these materials could be really useful. My colleague Nilofer Hassan, who left CSSP about a year ago, has actually worked on these materials, and so it's all in the Strengthening Families venue. It's in our language. I think you'll appreciate it if you take a look at those materials and consider sharing them with people in your communities. And then I also have a request from some of my other colleagues who you're familiar with. Charlene Harper Brown, who has been on the Strengthening Families team and the Young Children and Their Families team, is currently working on the National Center for Parent, Family, and Community Engagement, and along with other folks whose names you might recognize. But Charlene asked me to reach out on this webinar to ask for suggestions for presenters and speakers for a series of webinars that they are doing for Head Start grantees. So they're looking for suggestions for either organizations that would have content to share or Head Start programs that can share how they work on these specific topics. I'll show the list of what those topics are, but you can actually see in the handout panel on the side of your screen, the webinar panel, there's a handout heading. If you click on that, there are handouts there. There are some other handouts for later in the webinar, but you'll see one there about suggestions for these Building Family Economic Mobility, or BFEM, webinars. So these are the topics that they're covering, and just thinking that you as a network may be in touch with Head Start programs that already do a great job of this, that might want to share their experiences on a webinar, or national or state organizations that have been putting out good materials or doing good thinking around these topics. So as you look over that list, if anything rings a bell for you and you thought of someone who could present, or if you are that person, please download that table and fill in who the speakers would be and send it back to me, and we'll take those suggestions. So once again, I'm just putting up there just a reminder, you can fill in the table and send it to me. One of those webinars is scheduled for July, and so they are looking for speakers for that really quickly. The others are throughout the rest of the year, so they don't need to come in quite as quickly, but they're trying to have the lineup all set at some point in July. So please send your suggestions if you have any. Okay, with that, I'm going to hand over to my colleague and friend, Martha Reeder, from the National Alliance of Children's Trust Funds. Martha?
Good afternoon, everyone. We're so excited to be here this afternoon and to have some time to share with you. Let's go to the next slide. I first want to give you a couple of updates from the National Alliance of Children's Trust and Prevention Funds, beginning with some of our upcoming training of trainer events. We'll be in Madison, Wisconsin, June 21 through 23. And in Columbia, South Carolina, July 12 through 14, in Prescott Valley, Arizona, August 29 through 31. Those are links that you can click on and in order to register for these training events, and you can always find the information about training opportunities on our website under the tab called Training, and you can see that link, trainers.ctfalliance.org, will take you right to that spot. And also you can always contact me if you have any additional questions. Let's go to the next slide. So the Birth Parent National Network meets monthly, and they just had a call this morning, and I was on the call and got to hear some of the things that they're sharing. And one thing is that they're going to have another virtual convening, and this will be Tuesday, August 9th or Thursday, August 11th. They've supplied several times to present that virtual convening to you, and I was able to hear Sherry Tomlinson from Kansas talk about the plans for this call about substance abuse prevention and treatment, and I think it's going to be a really exciting call to listen to, some great ideas, and some very thoughtful pieces they put together to share, and I think you would really enjoy being part of that. And then there is another virtual convening planned for later in the fall, and so there's information here about that one as well. On the next slide, you can see that if you're interested in becoming a part of the Birth Parent National Network, that you can join by clicking on this link on our website and completing an application. And it's a very simple process. And really, if you forget that link, you can always go to the CTFalliance.org website and look under our work, and you'll see the listing for the Birth Parent National Network there. And with that, I just want to start sharing with you a little bit about a little background about the Alliance and how we support our work with parents. Some of you on the call may not know that much about the National Alliance of Children's Trust and Prevention Funds, but we are a national membership organization for the state Children's Trust and Prevention Funds. And we provide training and technical assistance, peer consulting opportunities, and a lot of support to our members in a lot of different areas. In addition to that, on the next slide, you'll see that some of our mission is to promote and support a system of services, laws, practices, and attitudes that help children and families have safe, healthy, and nurturing environments. So that's a big part, sort of a big umbrella that we sort of operate under. In the next slide, you will see that parents fit into this in a big way. Our strategic plan includes parents' voices and perspectives, in that we support that in every possible way, and the parents are part of the discussions related to policies and practices that affect children and families. So I shared earlier about some activities that the BPNN has coming up. The Alliance really supports two basic parent bodies, the Birth Parent National Network and the Alliance National Parent Partnership Council. Parents from both of the councils have the opportunity from time to time to work together. One of our co-chairs, Kara Georgi, who you'll meet in just a minute, helped to facilitate a recent virtual convening for the BPNN. And the topic concerned children with special needs, and Kara just happens to be kind of an expert on that. So we had another joint, we have had other joint work as well. Our other co-chair, Janae Moss, presented at an Idaho conference with one of the parents from the Birth Parent National Network. And so we continue, and we anticipate to have more and more opportunities to work together in the future. Commitment to support these parent bodies is threaded throughout the Alliance's strategic plan. The BPNN primary work is to promote and champion birth parents as leaders and strategic partners in prevention and child welfare reform. But the ANTPC has a slightly different purpose, to serve as a national model for what it looks like to partner with parents in a very dynamic and effective way. And we are going to get to hear from members of the Alliance National Parent Partnership Council today. When we go to the next slide, just a little, just back one, please, I'm sorry. Just a little bit of information about how the council is put together. We are closely aligned with the Alliance board and membership. The council members are nominated by Children's Trust Fund staff and leadership in states across the country. And when we receive those nominations, then those parents are interviewed by the current council members. We have a liaison from our board that meets monthly with the ANPPC as part of their monthly calls. And on the next slide, you will see a picture that was taken of our council when we met at our annual meeting in St. Paul, Minnesota last fall. And I just want you to see where all the different parents come from. We have Donna LeDuc from Minnesota, Katie McIntyre from New York, and Kara Georgi from New York. And Betty Hawkins-Emery from Oklahoma, Melissa Perry from Tennessee, Janae Moss from Utah, Victoria Hilt from Washington State, and Lucretia Rose from West Virginia. So in the past year, I have witnessed the members of this council as they have individually faced great adversity and challenges in their own lives. Although they were strong parent leaders when each of them came onto the council, they're even stronger now. The way they have embraced the idea of building protective factors in their own lives is one of the best examples I have seen of how this approach can really work. They are They're living examples of bringing the protective factors framework to life in everyday moments and challenges. What a great example they are for the parents they work with and to each other. Talk about social connections. They have been great help to each other through all the things that, you know, life brings their way, and they are such an inspiration to me. With that, I want to introduce one of our co-chairs, Kara Georgi. And I think we'll go to the next slide and see a picture of lovely Kara. She lives in Auburn, New York, has 2 children, and a wonderful, supportive husband. One of the handouts that I gave you today is the biographical sketches of all the parents, and you can read all of Kara's amazing achievements, and I'll mention just a couple. She is a former teacher and has been staying at home to raise her children. She has conducted so much statewide work with community cafes, which has been a huge impact in New York. She has a son with sensory processing disorder, and so she has taken it upon herself to become quite an expert in working with other parents who are dealing with rearing children with special needs. In addition, Kara is an Alliance certified trainer for bringing the protective factors to life in your work, and she uses it every chance she gets. And so I want to introduce Kara Georgi and turn this presentation over to her.
Thank you so much, Martha, and that is so true. If I can find a way to talk to you about protective factors, I will, and I think for the AMPPC, that's why we're so excited today, because our entire council has worked so hard collectively to complete the online training that the Alliance had, so that way we could make sure we were having a common language and a common dream and a common vision. And it helped us with not just the work that we do, but really truly it helps us in our everyday moments. And we've had that great opportunity. We had an awesome opportunity earlier this year to connect with the former alumni of the AMPPC, where we could talk with them and dream and vision of what was the council like when they first came and when it was first established to where it is today, and how can we keep those connections that we shaped going for as long as possible. And I would say for all of us on the AMPPC, our dream is to maximize our parent voices and our connections with each other and in all the circles that we go in, whether it's just in our small communities, our states, or even nationally. We find it a privilege and an honor to be able to share this work and to really celebrate the whole idea of strong families and parents. And so for today, if you could look at our next slide, you'll see our primary presenters. They are 2 incredible women who I have learned so much from. I get the privilege of calling them friends, and dear friends at that. And Melissa is the first presenter that I would like to tell you a little bit about. She's a highly respected parent leader at the local, state, and national levels, and she has such great expertise when it comes to parent leadership and advocacy. She's employed as a parent leadership coordinator for Prevent Child Abuse Tennessee and Healthy Families in Nashville, Tennessee, and she works closely with a lot of community-based child abuse prevention-funded programs. I think what I love the most about Melissa, though, is parents are at her core, her center. She really believes that parents need to be provided with the opportunity to take on leadership roles based on their strengths and interests, and she finds whatever way she can help that to spread in Tennessee that she can. And she has been such an inspiration to the work that we're trying to continue in New York with building our leadership capacity with parents. And then I also want to talk a little bit about my co-chair that I get the honor of working with and learning from and growing with, Janae. And I think that's the best part, is that even though we are called parent leaders, none of us feel like we're at the top. We feel like we're at the top together. And that by celebrating it that way, we're able to learn and grow. And Janae is a perfect example of that. She's a parent in every way you can imagine. You can learn so much from her, just because she's been an adoptive mother. She's done kinship care. She's a stepmother, and she has her own biological children. She talks about her kids, she helps us learn from the experiences she's had, and she celebrates the idea of parenting. And I think the most favorite thing about Janae and the work she's done is the Parent Advocacy Council that she has founded in Utah with one of her mentors, Barbara Levitt. And it's such a grassroots movement, but Janae had a dream, she had a vision, and even though she wasn't really sure what that end destination would be, she went for it, and she rallied the troops, and she has such a wide network of parents who stepped up and said, yes, I want to be a part of that. And so I'm so excited that I get to introduce them and let them take it away from here, sharing about some of the great work that our council has had the privilege of working on.
Thank you, Kara. Just listening to the everybody speak already, my heart's filled with gratitude, and especially for everybody being on the call today, taking time out of your life to be here for the next hour. I'm so grateful for you in doing that, because this work is so important. I wanted to personally be able to thank the Alliance for all the support and work that we've done together, and I've learned so much from them, and as well as working with the CSSP and the Birth Parent National Network. So my heart is full of gratitude as we talk today. Today we'll be talking about some really important things. Strength-based work with parents is really so important, and the protective factors, and why we're all learning about parenting with parents, and then also sharing with you some exciting need-to-know tools that we'll be sharing with you to further the work with what we're all doing. So starting out, why we use the protective factors in our work with parents. I think Kara and Martha already spoke to this a little bit about having a common language and how important it is that if we're speaking the same language, how much further we can get with our work. And a lot of our time on the Alliance Parent Partnership has been in coming up with that common language so we could really excel the things that we're doing. Of course, working with strength-based approach, so people respond well. They respond differently to something if it's looking from a strength-based lens instead of being something where they feel like they're being attacked or not good enough. And of course, a way to connect with all parents is so important. And as we've worked and accelerated our work together, it's really exciting to see parents in our own states get it. We have our meetings once a month on the phone, and we get to learn from each other about how we're all using the protective factors in our own states. And it's really exciting to hear the celebrations. One of the latest ones here in Utah is in just about a week and a half, we have one dad leader that recently took the training of the trainers, and he was certified in that just about a few weeks ago here in Utah, and he's putting on an event at the biggest event center here in Utah for dads for Father's Day. And when he learned about the protective factors, he decided that he wanted to get a credit card type of a card, a plastic card to put in all the dad's wallets that had the protective factors on them. And he paraphrased that to dad tips. And he came up with really some short and simple ways of explaining what those were, so when the dads came, they could leave with an actual tool that they could use in their own language. So it's really exciting to see the work that's been done on such a national level, and then how parents are using those tools in day-to-day life. And that's what we're excited to share with you here today. In building partnerships with parents, we always love to acknowledge that the parent and practitioners be good partners, because really everything that is good and everything that has positive influence is because we have good partnerships. We respect one another, and really if a parent lets a practitioner into their lives and partners with them, it will create a totally different I guess a reaction from the parents when it's looked at from a partnership perspective, instead of maybe feeling like something's wrong with them or they're being fixed. To be patient with the process when we're working with parents is so important. As we've worked on our calls monthly, and I've watched Martha being so patient with us every month as we all have our goals and our visions and the things that we're working on. I know that she's been so patient to listen to all of us and to learn with us, and I know sometimes we might take longer to go through. It took us a full year for all of us to go through the online training so that we understood the protective factors in a really deep kind of a way. But I really believe that taking the time to slow down and being patient and working with us really has sped up the process in the long run. I've also seen the same thing here in Utah, that it can be hard to work with parents because, of course, and I'm a parent, I know, but I cancel things last minute because if there's emergency with my kids, or if they can't, transportation or babysitting or just everyday stresses, it takes patience. But it really, if you slow down, you'll speed up, and it's really worth the time to do that. It's important for us, of course, to consider diverse opinions when we're working with parents, and we can't do everything that they would recommend or ask, of course, but if we are open to really listening to parents as they talk about the things that they need in different areas, then parents can feel that difference, and it will really create a bond and a partnership that can build programs, no matter what program you're in. Being respectful of these different opinions and listening to parents really makes a huge difference. Being open-minded and working across cultures challenges us to appreciate family strengths in a unique way. And I've come to, the more I work with parents every single day, what I've learned is you can learn something from every family and every parent, and we all have different strengths, and we all have different experiences that teach us things that we can share and learn from one another. And that's why cultures are so important, to respect people's backgrounds and experiences. Okay, next, the benefits of partnering with parents. There's so many, and I could talk about this for an hour alone, but I think, I love, as I've worked with parents here in Utah, I love listening to their out-of-the-box thinking. When they come to whatever you're working on, they have a fresh perspective, and they might, of course, they're not going to understand all of the years you've put into the work behind it, but listening to their out-of-box thinking and the way that the lens that they see your work through, if we listen to that, we can really learn so much from them. So I love fresh ideas and learning from other parents. I had one parent recently tell me, actually, that, Janae, you've been in this so long now. I've actually, this fall will be my 5th year going to the Alliance meeting, and I can't believe that as I think about it. But, parents even have approached me and said, Janae, you think about this on such a big level that sometimes it's hard for us to understand, and I'm coming from it from truly a parent's perspective, of course, and I don't even work with any one agency at all. I'm coming from it from a parent's perspective. I partner with agencies, I guess is what I'm saying, but my perspective is from a parent, and I still have parents telling me that I am being too confusing. So it's important for me, even from a parent's perspective, to appreciate and acknowledge their out-of-the-box thinking. Of course, when we have team atmosphere and we come to parents with the intent of being a team with them, they can feel the energy of where we're coming from, and we achieve so much more. Work-based in an everyday reality of what parents need and want for their families. And I love this because I think so often, as I've served with different people that have really good intent, they want to help families and they're doing everything that they can to do it, but so often they'll come up with a way to solve a parent's problems without even ever asking what the parent needs. And it comes from a good place, and they're amazing people trying to help. But if we can learn to slow down, to speed up, and work with parents from the very beginning, the tools that we create for parents will be something that they can actually use and they're excited about and they're invested in. Parents, I think the input that they give, they provide so much input, and they have a fresh set of eyes. And oftentimes, parents can say things that other people can't say because of either, you know, with business restrictions, or just there's some things that people can't say that they want to say. But a parent's perspective is fresh because they can always say exactly what they're thinking, and we really get what they need and what they want. It's unbiased and it's honest. And they're also there because of their own why. If you ask parents why they're there, they always have a reason. It's not because they're getting paid to be there. It's legitimately because they really want to be there. So because of all this great information we're learning across the nation, we have been so excited and realized that as the Alliance National Parent Partnership, we are really in a place where we can gather this great information we're learning as we're working on this in our own states. Each of us on the Alliance represents a much larger group of parents, hundreds and hundreds of parents. And so we thought, you know, as each of us are teaching in our own states, the biggest question that we're all hearing is that people are asking, how do you work with parents? What are the things that are important to do while you're working with parents? And what are the steps to working with parents? And we're so excited that that's where really everybody is. We're not trying to talk people into the fact that the parent voice is important anymore. I feel like even 5 years ago when I started working in this area, a lot of the times people are still saying, now why do you do that? Or what's a parent leader? And there's still some people that say that. But overall, we're really starting to see the needle move where people are genuinely excited to work with parents. They understand the need, and maybe they just are not quite sure where to go after they've decided that for their organization. And that is why we're excited to present these need-to-know tools with everyone. And we've worked really hard on them. And if I was ever going to present a case about how it looks to really work with parents, this is the best example I can think of, because this Parents Acrostic is something that was much more rudimentary when I came up with it. I put it together for a group in Utah, and it seemed to really work, and people were interested in it. And when we were deciding for this call what we wanted to share, I shared this one idea that I had and worked on a little bit, and together as a team of parents and people with the Alliance, they helped this tool get so much further than I could have done on my own. And I'm so excited to present it to you because it really is genuinely from a parent's perspective, and it's so enhanced and beautiful because we all came together to create this tool. Okay, so right down the center of it, we put parents because we feel like that's what we're working on and what we want to share. And with each of the letters from the parents, we have given a step or things that are important in working with parents. And I'm going to go down through that. And these tools, this is one of the things that is able to be downloaded from the Alliance site. I believe the link is over even on the side right there. And it's free and open for your use, and we would love for people to use it. We've come up with a lot of fun ways to use it and work with parents, and maybe we can share a little bit more about that later. So I'm going to go through each of the letters. P, as we decided, and this is something that was shifted around a lot, and to come up with the very most important words to share. P is provide, and we said provide options that will accommodate work and family schedules. What are the most convenient times and places to meet? Whatever your role, prepare a plan, A, B, or C. Partners are patient and the process because the results are worth it. Remember, parents are busy doing exactly what they should be, and that's parenting. So that's what we came up with for P. A is ask. When you know what parents need, it's easier to know how you can help them. You never know until you ask parents if parents want to work with you as a team. Don't just assume, and always ask. This is something that I saw in my own work, is that I went forever just trying to help parents, and one day I decided, oh, maybe I should ask for help. And it was unbelievable how many hands shot up in the air when I had been doing so much of it on my own for years. And so I think ask is so important. Okay, R is relationships. To be a true partner, you must build authentic relationships and have a good rapport. Be a friend, be sincere. These relationships pave the way to beneficial outcomes. that are only possible through partnership. The only reason that I'm here today is because I met somebody that moved in next door to me, Barbara Levitt, and she taught me what the protective factors were through our relationship. She didn't come over and say, let me tell you what the protective factors are, Janae. She came and she was my friend, and she showed me through her relationship what it meant. So I love R. E is for encourage. Encourage parents by recognizing individual strengths. Be flexible so parents can explore and exercise their strengths in ways that work best for them and to strengthen their families. And I love this. Barbara always said to me that if you can find one good thing a parent is doing, even if they're struggling with many, many things, if you can find one good thing, encourage them and focus on that, because that is what will help build them and help them grow into more areas of the protective factors. N, we decided, was nurture. Nurture parents and nourish their strengths. Listen to their thoughts. Acknowledge and validate their ideas. Implement parents' recommendations and ideas whenever possible. So if you nourish their strengths and you recognize what things that they are doing well, then parents will continue to grow, and that relationship will be nurtured. T, we decided, was trust. Parents and practitioners need to find a trust between each other. Take the time to get to know each other. As trust becomes possible, the strengths of each partner can shine. And I think as we just let those walls come down, we can really get to the authentic person and to know really how to help one another. And S, we decided, was succeed. A partnership will succeed when both partners are committed to learning from each other and listening to each other's ideas. Be prepared to change your mind and find best solutions to strengthen families and communities. So I love this. This comes from a collective ideas from all the parents on the Alliance and from many parents they work with. These are things that they found to be important. And I love the idea of listening to each other. We can't always do what maybe the parents ask for, but as we listen, we can really build a trust and we break down those walls so we can grow together. Okay, and on the back of this slide, or this acrostic that you can download, there's ways that you can use this, and we don't have a slide of it, but I'm just telling you that when you download it, you'll be able to see actually some suggested uses, such as brainstorming with a parent group, individual parent-professional mentoring relationships, launching and creating parent-provider conversations. And it's really to start conversations. It's not to be an answer, an end-all, be-all. It's really to get parents and providers talking together. So if you're looking from your perspective and you're just starting to work with parents and you're trying to decide in your organization where to go next, it looks a little bit different for everyone. And I could sit with a million different organizations and help them brainstorm about how to best start. But really, I see this as a conversation starter to launch and for people to decide how they should be working with parents. Invite some parents into your organization, whatever it is, and pull out this acrostic tool and say, we've been talking with some parents and they think that these things are important. How do you see working with our organization as we read this tool together? What stands out to you as a way that we could support you as a parent and team up with you as a parent? And that it's meant to get that conversation going. It's not to give all the answers of 1, 2, 3, what each person needs to do. It's for each organization to figure that out, and that's what's exciting about it. And when you print that off, you can look through and see some more in-detail ideas about how to use it. Okay. Now I want to turn the time over to Melissa, and she's going to share some more exciting information about things that we've learned with the parents on the Alliance and also people that we've been talking with. So Melissa, go ahead.
Thank you, Janae, and thank you everyone else who's on here today. Okay, so the top 10 questions we need to know. I really, really like this tool that we've come up with, and I'll share some of the questions and some of the responses that we've got. But first I'll tell you a little bit how we came up with our questions and the responses, how we were able to gather those. Each of the AMPPC members has a very large circle of influence in their own state and was able to use their circle to gather the information from their states, and those include Minnesota, New York, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Utah, Washington State, and West Virginia. Next slide. On the next slide, you'll see the questions there, and there's a one-pager that we don't have completely done yet, but on the back of it you'll be able to see that it's a reflective tool on the flip side, and it'll help parents and practitioners reflect on where they are in the process of developing strong parent partnerships. And we expect that the whole thing will be done and available and posted on the Alliance website by mid-July. And on the next slide are the questions, the 10 questions that we asked. And as you all are looking over those, I wanted to share some of the responses from several of the questions, because I think that it's really important that you hear some of the feedback that we received from across the country. In particular, on the first question, how do you invite parents to partner with you? Some of the responses included through word of mouth, referrals from other parents, sign-up sheets at conferences, local PTA, social media, and through other community efforts that involve parents. So you can see that their parents are being invited to partner with practitioners and agencies through a very large array of ways. And then another one of the questions, number 5, I'm jumping to it, what are common motives for parents to volunteer despite busy lives? Because we always wonder, like Janae was talking about earlier, what makes parents want to volunteer when they're not motivated by, you know, a paycheck, when they don't have to do advocacy work, when they don't have to be involved? What makes them want to volunteer? And so some of the responses included being part of decision-making that affects their families, an opportunity to strengthen their family and community, being connected to the child's caregiver, gaining training and information to help them professionally or in their parenting, building self-leadership skills, social connections, personal passion about their own family and their community. And you can see interweave throughout there that there's a common thread with everyone's wanting to either do it for their family, for connections, or building leadership skills, but everything really goes back to the protective factors. And on number 9, in what areas do you provide training or knowledge development? We found this really interesting too. Parents said that, they said that they learn about community, they provide training for community cafes, leadership skills, protective factors, and family topics such as financial matters, parenting skills, family goals, leadership skills, and community organizing. And then subjects as requested, viewing each subject through the lens of the protective factors. And then that ties in to the next slide. The work we did with the scan really pointed out how important the protective factors framework was in helping to build partnerships, and how the protective factors are the common thread that we all care about. And now I'll turn it back over to you, Janae.
Great. I don't think we heard enough from you, Melissa.
No, it's 5. Thank you.
Melissa is amazing, and she's worked so hard. As you can see, we have so much information that it's really hard to fit that in on one phone call, and that's why we're excited to be able to share these tools with you, because we see it as ongoing work that we all need to work together on. I often like to think of it like a beach, you know, and we all have our castles, our sand castles on the beach, and we've all built moats around our sand castles, and we have hopefully at least a bridge, but our goal is to smash down all those walls and the, you know, the moats, and be able to live as a community so that although we're coming from all different perspectives, we can learn from one another and share all of our resources that we're coming up with so we can all build and grow together. So we're just excited about this. As you've heard several times, our people on the NAPPC have been trained in the protective factors, and we do have 4 certified trainers, and everybody has completed the online courses. That's exciting for us, but it's even more exciting because it reaches into the work that we're doing in the different states. There is an online training that the Alliance has. If you have parents that are interested in your own states and you want them to be able to dip their toes in and to start understanding about protective factors, I would say to first have them take that online training because it really helps them to start kind of understanding the protective factors, and then you can have a common language to meet, especially with the parent acrostic. Those things together could really get a conversation going with parents if you're just starting out. We love this work, and we're practicing it every day in different ways. And so now as we're ready to share this information, we're excited to do that, and we expect that there will be questions. And so if any of you have questions after this webinar and you want to contact any one of us individually, or I'm sure Martha or Kaylin can talk with you, of course you're welcome to do that. As I've been working with Martha and the Alliance, and I told you a little bit about the need to know tools, with the acrostic is one of them. We have another one that we're going to be introducing as well that we've been working really hard on, and the reason that we decided that this was important to come up with a series of infographics that will share what we're learning from the parents and how they're embracing the protective factors, because a lot of people now are just ready to get going and seeing how it works. So we decided to break these up by protective factor in each of the infographics, and each one of these pages will have a front and a back side. This is the front side that you're seeing here, and the first one we're releasing is for parental resilience. And on each of the infographics that you will see, you'll always see the definition of the protective factor at the top, and you'll see the everyday actions as defined in the Strengthening Families Protective Factors framework, and also concrete examples of those everyday actions gathered from parents across the country. So in the blue, and I know you can't see it well, which is why you're going to be able to download it, these are actual answers that we've been gathering through the ANPPC and the connections that they have in their own states. So in the clipboard is where we put the CSSP's everyday actions to help build resilience, is what is in that top right-hand corner. And then a few of the questions that we asked the ANPPC, I'm going to share with you because I know you can't read it, but one question on the left is, give examples of concrete ways that your family's race, language, culture, history, approach to parenting is valued as a part of any group in which you participate. And one answer was, my biracial children attend a school where less than 3% of the student body is a minority. The school invites guest speakers from many ethnicities, including African American, and shares books and crafts to honor my children's heritage. And then one other answer we shared was, our children represent multiple ethnicities. We help create opportunities where they can explore their individual ethnic histories through reading and meeting others and continuing dialogue. So those were 2 real answers that parents gave in ways that they were helping with that question. One of the other ones that I was going to share is, when you face a crisis, and this is on the right leaf on the right side, and it says, when you face a crisis, small or large, what are some ways that you protect your child from being negatively impacted by this stress? And I love these everyday actions that parents have answered. One idea was, reflect and remember what skills I have used to manage or overcome struggles in the past. Another one is, I tell myself I've been through tough times before, then I drop everything and do something fun with my little one, because sometimes that's the best thing, is just to stop and have fun. The next example a parent gave was, My kids handle stress better when they realize there is stress and plan to manage it. It is a mistake for me to drag them through it and let them figure out how to cope. So as you can see, there's lots of really good information on there that we can be sharing with parents and everyday actions that they can do in each of the protective factors. And we won't have time to go through all of those, but that's what that is. And then on the opposite side of that slide is parent translations, because what we realized is that many parent groups across the nation have worked hard to put together different ways to explain what the protective factors are to parents. And a lot of those definitions have been designed by parents themselves. And so when you print that off, again, you'll be able to see several examples of how people are defining parental resilience in different states, and also contact information if you'd like to see more about them. So I want to end here. We'll have just a minute for Q&A, but I wanted to end by saying that this work is so important, and I would encourage everyone to find one parent. If you can, of course, more is even better, but if we can each commit to finding one parent this year that we can, I would say by the end of this year, even in 2016, that we can identify that we see within them maybe a voice that they want to share, or to help them find their voice that maybe they don't want to share, but to help them find their voice so that they can feel strengthened as a parent. Find one, and I really think that if we're intentional about this, parents will present themselves to you, and to engage them on a real authentic way, and to start that conversation with them. This is why we do the work that we do, because parents care more about their kids than anyone can, and really if we can support them and partner with them in this work, then we really can begin to change lives. I know it's changed my life, and I know it's changed the lives of the parents that I work with on the Alliance, and many, many parents that I've worked with in my own state, and I'm just grateful for this opportunity and all the work that's been put into developing the protective factors and the studies that were done and the people that sacrifice so much time to support families. And I just want to thank everybody for being on this call, and once again to find that one parent. Now I just want to open it up to Q&A for the last, I think we have six minutes or so, and that can be to myself or to Melissa or Kara or Martha or anybody else on the call that can help out answering anything.
This is Kaylin.
Does anybody have?
I'm going to jump in and read a question that someone typed in, and I'll encourage other people to type in questions if you have them, and raise your hand if you'd like me to unmute you so you can ask a question. So one that was written in, first I will say several people have written in to say how great these resources are, and to ask about where they can get them. So I'll take a second to point out you can download the resilience handout and the parent acrostic in the handout section of the webinar right now, and other materials will be posted on the Alliance website under the Need to Know link as they're ready. So now I'll read the question, and I think Melissa and Janae, you might both have answers for this. Gail Samuels asks, are there particular steps that you take to partner with fathers or even grandfathers versus mothers or grandmothers? Any particular considerations, or is this all generalizable?
I hope we both answer this, Melissa, because one of my great passions is engaging fathers. But yes, I would say it's always important to ask parents to recruit other parents. That's the fastest way you're going to get them, but especially with dads, because dads know how to say, hey man, hey bro, this is what we're doing, come on. You know, I think with dads, I would find your dad that really gets it, and then find ways that he can reach out to find other dads, I think. And also scheduling with dads is a big thing, because a lot of times they can't get to meetings. I had meetings for a long time in the daytimes, and dads couldn't get there. So I think scheduling is a huge thing, and then having dads reach other dads. Melissa, do you have anything to say about that?
I would say that scheduling is probably the biggest, I don't want to say challenge, but scheduling is probably the biggest consideration that I've run into, is making sure that whatever time that is most convenient for the fathers is is important when we hold our meetings. When it's because we have a father that works a third shift, and so it's not convenient for him to be able to talk at what our normal times would be in the morning, and so we record our meetings and he's able to go back and listen to them. If we get some more fathers, we're going to redo we redo a survey every year to find out what's most convenient for all the parents as far as the timing and when we hold our meetings. But I do think that the timing with our fathers is very important, and word of mouth with dads and making them know that they're comfortable. And as long as there's more than one dad, I think that makes the dads, I know that it makes them feel more comfortable when they don't feel like a token dad or the only one that's there, and they know that they have another guy, like Janae said, when they can be like, hey, bro, how's it going? And feel like they're not the only dad that's going to be in the room.
Thank you both. Related to that, Janae, you shared about a father in Utah who's doing an event for Father's Day and creating these cards. Would you be able to, someone was asking for more information about that or what was put on those cards. I'm wondering if we should feature that in a newsletter if he's happy to share it. So maybe you and I can connect about that, but if you want to say anything more about it right now, that would be great.
Yes, it was really exciting. The work with dads in Utah it's been amazing to me. Dads want to be there and they want to lead. They just need to be welcomed in the way that is understandable for them and comfortable for them. And Kirk, it was his idea. You know, he was throwing this huge event, at least probably 300 people, and he's limiting it. But he just said, hey, I want the dads to know what the protective factors are. And I said, well, great, can I help you? Or no, he asked me, he said, Janae, can you help me come up with definitions for dads? And I said, I would love to, but you'd be even better at it. So I kind of put it back in his lap. He's a business guy, and he sent back his definitions that are no more than 3 words per protective factor, which is unbelievable. If you've worked with protective factors a lot, you know it's so hard to explain them. And I'm sure that it's not capturing everything that each protective factor means, but he put it in a way that dads would remember and listen to. And I can definitely share those with you, Kaylin. I can send you exactly what the card was, and we sent it to the printers just a few days ago. So I can share that for sure.
That would be great. Thank you. We've had a couple, one person asked about whether the handouts would be available in Spanish, and Martha typed in an answer that they're not currently available, but that could be possible in the future, and thanks for the suggestion. It's always great when we can get more things translated, and certainly on critical things about engaging parents. We'd love to see that. I think, let's see, we've got a couple minutes left. One other question came in. Can you please provide a couple more examples of parental resilience? I'm not sure if the question was to share maybe more of the answers on that handout. Janae or Melissa, would you want to share a couple more of the questions and answers that were on that resilience handout?
Melissa, do you have that?
Go ahead. Go ahead. No, go ahead. Since you have it, go ahead and read several more of them since you've got it in front of you.
Okay, let's see. One question, I can share probably one more and they'll probably be out of time, but let's see, what are some ways that you can remind yourself to deal with stress effectively? How can you encourage others to do the same? And we got many answers from parents on this one. One of the answer was look for the humor in the situation. If I can find a way to laugh at what happened or something else about the day, I can own it and move forward. Laughter is a lifesaver. One that I added to the page was something that I've done in my house for probably 10 years, and that I keep my top 10 list of things that feed my soul by my bed in my nightstand. And when I have a challenging day, I pull out my list and I decide several things to do on it. Like maybe I realize today is a music day and I need to call a friend or whatever it is. That if people can identify their top 10, then when they're having a really hard day and they need some resilience, they can pull that out wherever it's convenient for them and they can choose what things to do to be more resilient. So that's a few more ideas.
Great, thank you. I don't see any other questions coming in, and we are just about at the end of our time. So I just want to thank you so much Kara, Melissa, Janae, and Martha for sharing all of this. I know you've worked hard to get it all together, and I think everybody on the phone and on the webinar is appreciative of all the work that went into it. It's always one of the great joys of working on strengthening families is seeing what other people do with these great ideas and how you can make them real in your communities, and the work that parents are doing is a huge part of that. So thank you all for sharing. And just a reminder, everyone, this will be recorded, or it has been recorded, and it'll be available. You'll get a follow-up email with the link to that recording, and you can share it with everyone else. So thanks, everyone, for joining us. Many thanks to our presenters, and have a great afternoon.
Thanks, Kaylin. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all. Thanks so much.
Thank you.